snowed a little bit this morning.
It did. It was nice.
Didn't care for it.
No, I didn't think you would.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Not for me.
Dave doesn't like snow.
I
The
do
Grinch. Welcome to Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank and the Grinch.
not. That's fair. I choose to be the Grinch about cold weather. But we do have a lot to talk about today. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. We're live here at Rivers
He's
Casino.
a nasty, wasty soul.
At Rivers Casino, Philadelphia, out here at the sports book. There is a lot to talk about. Eagles have some interest in a free agent linebacker that we'll talk about. A former offensive coordinator is available, so maybe there's a chance that can happen. We talked to all the coordinators today on Tuesday. We talked to Nick Sirianni on Monday, kind of trying to figure out how in the heck they won this game on Sunday afternoon. And, oh, yeah, it's 49ers week. It's a chance for the 49ers to show everyone that, oh, man, the Eagles got lucky last year in the NFC Championship game. If only they had 12 quarterbacks suited up for that one.
Yeah, I still don't get the whole, the whole notion that it was bad luck or something when they didn't protect their quarterback.
Do you need to protect your quarterback?
I mean, it's not like he got hurt running down the tunnel on a brick that was sitting. I mean, he got hurt playing football.
Yeah, we'll get to all that. We'll get
They tried to block
the whiny Niners.
Hassan Reddick with a backup tight end.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for them. But we know it is leading to a lot of intrigue and excitement for the game on Sunday. So we'll get to that in a little bit, and we'll really break down that game on Thursday. But Rube, let's start with Shaq Leonard, formerly Darius Leonard, if there's some confusion there. Was an all-pro linebacker.
They're both working out for the Eagles.
At one point. On Tuesday, scheduled to be in Dallas for a visit there, but also reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter that he should be taking a visit to Philly later this week. So we'll see if he gets out of Dallas without a contract. But kind of fun that it's coming down to two rivals.
Yeah, it's interesting. And look, I don't know how good he is at this point. He had some serious injuries last year. His playmaking, obviously, in the 9 games with the Colts was non-existent. But the Eagles have a big need. I mean, we don't know how long Zach Cunningham's going to be out. If he'll be out, we just don't know. We'll know more next time we talk to you guys on Thursday when we see.
It did seem, though, that it's not going to be like an IR type of deal, the way Nick Sirianni talked on Monday. So even if he might miss time, but
yeah, we just don't know. But even if he's totally healthy, they don't have any depth at the position. So Nick spent 3 years with him in Indianapolis, and obviously they have a good relationship. And if he gets out of Dallas without signing, I think they might sign him. I think they might not let him here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And it might have already happened. But
by the time you're listening to this, yeah, possibly.
At worst, he gives you some reps at a position where you have Christian Ellis and Ben Van Sumeren.
Yeah, and that's the important part of this is that they've actually gotten really solid play from Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow, but and even look, Christian Ellis I thought did some nice things when he got in there on Sunday afternoon, but that's really it. Ben Van Sumeren is an undrafted linebacker who you've already used up his 3 elevations. So if they don't sign Shaq Leonard, they're going to have to find a way to get him on the active roster because you can't go into a game that light of the position. And I've had questions.
Well, even if they sign him, they have to have a roster move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you need a roster move either way.
Yeah.
I've gotten questions about can Nolan Smith play off-ball backer. I mean, he could, but they're not going to do that. That'd be unfair to him, and I don't think it would help the team. So, yeah, I'm interested. I think obviously Shaq Leonard is not what he once was, but for a team that really has such a need there, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and I got a couple questions about his huge contract that he signed. Obviously, when the player's waived, the contract goes away. Now, the cap hit for the Colts doesn't go away, but you sign him to whatever you sign him for. So you can sign him for a million, whatever.
Exactly, and he was not claimed. Every player has to go through waivers at this point in the season.
After the trade deadline.
No one claimed him because of that contract.
Right, exactly. So the contract goes away. He's a free agent. You sign him for $1 million, $2 million, whatever, for the rest of the year. It's an interesting one because everything says the analytics, the stats all say he's not the player he was, but you're not going to be paying him for the player he was.
And he's 28, so it's not like he's, Not like he's 35 either.
But listen to this. When he was, I mean, his heyday wasn't that long ago, but for 4 years,
I mean, he was an All-Pro in 2021.
2 years ago, and then he hurt his back. I guess he had surgery during the offseason after the 21 season, and then he had a concussion in his first game back, and then he aggravated a back injury. He only played 3 games last year. From 18 to 21, he had 15 sacks, 17 forced fumbles, 12 interceptions, 31 pass breakups, and 32 tackles for loss in 70 games. This year he has none of any of those things.
Yeah.
So
Great nickname, too. I'm a big nickname guy. The Maniac's a pretty good one.
yeah. Who did the song Maniac?
I don't know.
You know the song Maniac?
Yeah.
She's a Maniac. I believe it was Michael Sembello. Does that sound right? Let's look that up. I can name that song. Michael Sembello from Flashdance, apparently.
Okay. I know the song.
It's only 40 years ago. I don't know what parking lot I'm in, casino here, but I know who did Maniac.
Did you see that Shaq Leonard was at the Colts game on Sunday?
I did not.
He was at the game with his wife and kid in the box, and they honored him.
Really?
Kind of crazy. I
That's
don't think
different.
I've ever seen that.
Not during the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's different.
Very well liked.
Obviously, I know Nick thinks a lot of him.
And that's like I think we mentioned it when we talked about him previously, but after Nick's awful opening press conference when people were kind of having a lot of fun and making fun of him, I remember Shaq Leonard put out a tweet that was like, hey, no, this guy's a good coach. So they definitely have a relationship. And I wonder if that part of it is enough to get him to leave Dallas without a contract.
Interesting. Generally, it comes down to money.
It does, but you don't know. And look, we know Dallas historically has put more resources into that position. So maybe that factors in. But maybe out of respect, the Eagles get a visit.
Could be. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Look, I think it's a no-lose move if you do sign him. You don't expect the player that he was a couple of years ago, although, as it goes along, he could, get healthier. I mean, I just don't know how bad it is. Back injuries are really, really tough. But he has played almost 500 snaps this year, so he's been healthy. It's just the production hasn't been there.
Yeah, and they had options at that position in Indy that made sense to move on.
Right. He's a good coach, by the way. Shane Steichen.
Oh, I was like, Leonard? Yeah, Shane's doing a good job without his quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been impressed by them this year.
Yeah. Seeing the coach of the year mix?
I don't know if they're going to win enough to get him there.
Yeah, they
Which,
might.
like, the coach of the year is always such a silly thing because it's not the best coach. It's like the best coach against expectation.
Yeah, it's like comeback of the year coach
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. Like, that's why Nick will never win it because they'll never be bad enough for him to have a chance at it.
Yeah.
He'll be the greatest coach in the world.
He should have won it last year, I think.
Should have won it last year.
Now they're too good. It's like, how many years could Bill Belichick have won it? How many years could Andy Reid have won it?
Yeah, Andy hasn't won it in 20 years. 2003.
Yeah.
He's third in
He's
wins.
never been the best coach in the league during that stretch.
Right, never. Not once. Anyway.
Sometimes awards are kind of
I'm
silly.
a voter for coach of the year, so I will.
Who's on your radar there?
Well, I think Doug. I think Doug is. I think Nick is. I think Shane is. Those are guys who've done a great job.
Yeah. It is fun how everything's kind of intertwined now. We were talking about Shane in Indy. Now we can move on to talk about Frank Reich, who got fired.
He's not in my equation.
Gets fired by Carolina. Interesting move there for the Panthers.
11 games.
11 games. Second year in a row he's been fired during the season, which is a weird thing because he's not like Frank's one of the most agreeable people I've ever met. So it's not like, sometimes you see a coach get fired mid-season like Chip and you're like, well, I kind of get it. You're not winning
And that was with 1 week left.
yeah, but like I'm saying in general, it's like, or McDaniels, it's like someone who has a little bit of a grating personality, whereas Frank Reich is pretty affable, but also Jim Irsay and David Tepper are a little different.
Yeah, I'll say Irsay's a little different. And look, I think I put I like Frank a lot, and I thought he was an incredible play caller here, or offensive coordinator, I should say. Um,
Yeah, you'd have to rip the play sheet from Doug's
yeah,
cold dead hands.
yeah. I like him to like a Pat Shermer, where Pat was a really good offensive coach. Some guys just like Wade Phillips, really good defensive coach. Some guys just aren't.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I thought Frank early on in Indy was a really good head coach.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure he has the personality for it.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought early on in Indy he was a really good head coach. Now you can start to say, like, the Indianapolis excuse for the last few years has been Andrew Luck retired on him, but I mean that was a big deal at the time. He hasn't been as good without Nick Sirianni, which that might be something. But it is funny how it's like we never really know who to credit and who to criticize because after Frank Reich left in 2018. It was so much of like, well, maybe the Super Bowl and Eagles start struggling a little bit. It's like maybe the Super Bowl was all because of Frank Reich, and now you see what Doug Peterson's doing in Jacksonville, and you remember, okay, no, he's a pretty good coach.
He's a heck of a coach. He's done a great job. I mean, that was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a perfect hire for them because I know this is way off script, but he's such a positive guy, and it was such a negative atmosphere down there after the disastrous situation. So, and I think when you look at the job he did when he started here, it was similar. Like it probably wasn't as much of a mess, but it was a guy who was divisive and unhappy team, and he just kind of brought everyone together.
Former college coach, divisive.
Yeah, there was a lot of parallels there.
Fired during a season.
Yeah. So, anyway. But the question is, and I asked Nick this yesterday, Monday, does he have any interest in bringing Frank in any role? He obviously would not be offensive coordinator here. They're real happy with Brian Johnson. But, I mean, Nick's brought in guys before.
Last year they brought in Marcus Brady during the season. They brought in Vic Fangio for the playoff run. And so, like, they're not scared to bring in big names.
Matt Patricia, not during the season, but kind of a big name. Jim Bob Cooter. I mean, he'll bring in new guys. He likes having a lot of opinions in the building. He likes having, diverse opinions, disagreeing opinions.
Yeah. And Marcus Brady ended up staying on staff after last year and got promoted to really, I think he's handling a lot of what Jim Bob's responsibilities were in the pass game. Whereas, like, when they hired him during the season last year, it was kind of funny the way it worked out. Now, obviously, they helped their respective, like, normal sides of the football, but they were brought in as consultants for the opposing viewpoint. So, like, Marcus Brady was helping Jonathan Gannon in the defense, and we know Vic Fangio was helping the offense. But you have Vic Fangio in your building. I think you're nuts not to ask him some defensive questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick thinks a lot of Marcus Brady. His name comes up a lot in just various press conferences. Well, he's the guy that was in the room. He was the guy in that meeting. He's the guy I asked about this. Mm-hmm. You can tell who he really thinks highly of.
And we know he really thinks highly of Frank Reich. What do you think the odds are that we see Frank Reich in Philadelphia before the end of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. Now, I mean, Frank hasn't been here in a long time. He doesn't know the personnel. How many offensive players did he coach? Kelsey?
Yeah, I mean, that's not why you bring him in, though.
No, but I think this late in the season, it would be a lot of catching up to do. I don't know if Frank wants to do it. I mean, Frank's been fired 2 years in a row late in the season, middle of the season. I think a lot of it is what he wants to do, where he wants to be. Does he want to
back-to-back Novembers?
Yeah,
didn't even make it to December in either year.
He made it farther this year than last year.
Yeah, last year was November 7th, I believe.
Yeah, it was week 9. His career record's taken a dip. He's 4-15-1 the last 2 years. But I'm kind of thinking no. But it wouldn't shock me.
Well, you know what I can guarantee? Even if it's not an official role, Frank Reich is going to have some advice for Nick Sirianni.
Well, they talk all the time anyway.
Yeah, but now it can be a little bit more football-centric if Nick wants to take it that way.
Yeah.
When Frank's a head coach of a team, he's not going to be able to watch your tape, and he's not going to be able to help you with schematic questions.
And it could be just something where Frank is home. I'm not sure where Frank's home is now.
Well, he is living in Carolina still. He has a house there. Good job by Charlotte Observer to get Frank for an interview after getting fired. And in that interview, that was one of the things that he's still living in Carolina. Had very complimentary things to say about even David Tepper, who just fired him, which is a very Frank Reich thing to do.
That's Frank.
But in that, he said this might be his final chapter as a coach. You can understand if he's a little burnt out, but he's also not like
He's 60. Well, he'll be
62,
62 next week.
yeah.
I kind of think he might, if he has a role, it might be at home, just breaking down film, which he could do.
I think we're going to see him.
Okay. I'll say we won't.
Okay.
But I like Frank. He's a good dude. And
I just know how much Nick thinks of him.
his press conference after the Super Bowl, like he was never a great interview. He started out bad.
Frank Reich, you're talking
Yeah.
about.
He got okay in 17. But after the Super Bowl, man, he was freaking William Shakespeare in that interview room, talking about Nick and just kind of putting Nick's performance and his run in a context.
That'd be Nick Foles.
Nick Foles, yeah. Sorry, not Nick Sirianni. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm going to say maybe not.
Interesting. I remember last year in Indy, I mean, the Eagles played in Indy 2 weeks after Frank got fired. And that's about, Nick Sirianni gets fired up quite a bit. That's about as fired up as I've seen him.
Yeah, and he was totally different this time. He wasn't. I mean, not that they went and played Carolina. I'm just saying, talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I bet you under the surface he's a little PO'd.
I guess. I think for me, it comes down to, like.
But it's different. Like, he was in Indy with Frank.
Sure, yeah.
And I think he was really looking forward to getting the coach against him.
Yeah.
And he got that taken from him.
I'm sure. If you're 61, you just got fired, you went from Indy to Carolina. Do you want to? I guess it just, for me, it comes down to, I'm sure.
It'd be nice to walk in a building and see an owner who knows what the heck he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. But I just wonder if that's really what he wants to do.
Maybe. I don't know.
Go fishing.
He's a football lifer, though.
Yeah.
Been in the NFL a long
No,
time.
I mean, but he had a long stretch there, like
He
5
did,
years where
yeah.
he didn't coach, right, before his coaching career.
That's true.
Yeah. So we'll see.
That leads us to the current offensive coordinator. And one of my favorite moments from a press conference so far this year happened in Brian Johnson's press conference on Tuesday. Because on back-to-back questions, he got asked about how he deals with criticism. I mean, it's been a fire Brian Johnson in the first half of every game. And then the very next question was about his name being introduced as the early part of the head coaching carousel begins.
Yeah, it's so funny that, I mean, he got asked two extremes in the span of two questions, and they're both understandable questions, and that's the life of a coach. And he's not getting fired. He's doing a good job. There are plays that don't work. There are plays that make you scratch your head. And
my big question is, why doesn't he call the ones that work?
Yeah, so a lot goes into it, but
I was proud of that one.
and I liked his explanation of the horizontal plays. That was good. He got into that a little bit. We want the defenses to have to defend every blade of grass and all that. And but anyway,
Still don't love some of those calls.
no, I don't either. But there's a time and place for it. But in any case, I wouldn't be shocked if they lose him.
Yeah, based on what I've seen, I don't know if he's quite ready for it, but you never really know, and teams are always trying to find the next guy. And look, he has some traits that make him appealing as a next guy. And look, just being around Jalen Hurts, like Jalen Hurts is going to keep getting guys jobs, and he might be the next one. I don't know if he's quite ready for that, but I do think
Alex Tanney's going to be a head coach in 4 years.
probably it's gonna it just
They're just going to keep.
there's a pipeline
Yeah.
starting to form a little bit, and it can dry up. We've seen coaching pipelines dry up before, but it certainly looks like a good idea to bet on the Eagles' low level offensive assistance.
Yeah, no doubt. And
What do you make of Brian Johnson's performance so far?
in his press conference today,
No.
I think he's done I think he's done a good job for the most part. Yeah, there's things that some of the red zone play calling early was baffling. Now some of those were not him; they were Jalen. You don't always know exactly what the play call was, what was inaudible, what he checked into. Um, but if you look at the bottom line, they're 10-1. They have the number 4 scoring offense in the league. Um,
They have really turned around the red zone, which
they
was
turned around.
ugly early.
They've been best in the league in the red zone the last month. I think he gets away from the run sometimes a little too much, but I get that with the
Some of it's on Nick. I think Nick kind of skates by a little bit more than he should in terms of criticism. I mean, early in the game is when they've struggled offensively. That's Nick's role,
Right.
is like to come up with the script and the game plan early. If anything, like maybe Brian Johnson deserves some credit for the way they kind of figure things out and he gets to the answers. Maybe it takes a little longer than you'd like, but I think you can make the case that Brian Johnson's doing a really nice job of adjusting and
I would
getting
agree
to
with
the
that.
answers.
I would agree with that. And he's the one calling the plays. And at the end of games, this is almost always a really good offense. And I think that's him.
Do you agree with that though? Like Nick somehow
Absolutely.
avoids a lot of the criticism for it.
Oh, sure.
It's like that's what his role
He's
is
an offensive
in
head
this
coach.
offense.
It's his offense.
It's his offense, and like when they're struggling early, and he leads the charge putting the game plan together.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
And then you're right about Jalen, because sometimes I think Jalen does make the wrong decision on occasion, and that's tough to parse a little bit.
Yeah, and
Obviously, he's been really good. I don't want to make it sound like he's making wrong decisions all the time. Most of the time, he makes the right decision, and he plays really well. But there are moments where he does make the wrong read.
yeah, and if he does that and it doesn't work, that's not on Brian Johnson. But we don't always know either. We usually find out eventually, but we don't always know, and fans certainly don't always know. So you got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to do is to pinpoint exactly who deserves the blame. I think Brian has done an okay job. Like this is a good offense. I have been impressed that he's been able to find the right buttons to push, especially when they struggle early. I don't think he quite has the knack as a play caller that Shane Steichen did, but
Great.
then again, I think
He
Shane
was as good as anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Shane was just so good at that. It's a really high bar to try to clear. And Brian's still learning.
It's his first year.
That's the thing. Shane was much better in year 2 than year 1,
He sure
right?
was.
So, I think there are reasons to think Brian's going to keep getting better at this. And if he's here next year, it'll be because he doesn't get hired for a head coaching job. They're not firing him. I think there are reasons to think he's going to be better at it.
Well, this offense is better than Shane's first offense. But they also have better players.
And primarily the quarterback is much better.
Same quarterback.
Yeah, but it's a much better version.
It sure is. No, I think Shane's as good as I think he's a terrific play caller, and he's one hell of a head coach. I mean, what was their record last year? What did they win, like 4 games? I'm going to look that up while you speak. Now you won't speak to make me look bad. Indianapolis.
Well,
Colts.
you haven't stopped speaking. When was I supposed to talk?
They were 4-12-1 last year under Frank and Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff. I mean, with the whole John Taylor drama, I thought he really handled that well. Yeah. They're a playoff team, quite likely.
You think so?
I have to look at their schedule. Is Doug the number 1 seed right now? No, Baltimore's the number 1 seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doug's number 3. So Andy's got a tiebreaker over Doug.
Every coach in the league has been here.
It's unbelievable. Like, I looked at that at one point. Well, it's down 1 now because of Frank, but it was like half the teams in the league had either a coordinator or a head coach who had been here at one time.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, and that includes guys like, I mean, some were like fringe. I mean, I can't think of any at the moment. But no, it's I mean, half of them were Andy's guys. So,
Yeah, Andy has a pretty big tree. Andy has a forest.
He does.
I don't have this on our list here, but we were talking about it before the show, and I think it's worth mentioning. Uh, Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson, we were talking about it in the context of Brian Johnson bringing up why Jalen Hurts is so good at the end of games, and he mentioned his confidence, and I think that's just right, and it's contagious, that confidence. Like, me and you were just watching the BG clip, which, if you haven't seen it, the Eagles tweeted it, and it's definitely worth watching. It's BG trash talking in that overtime, but he's mic'd up on the sideline too, and it was just like supreme confidence, not even just in the offense, but in Jalen Hurts, that Jalen Hurts was going to take them down the field and win the game. And we know Jalen has that confidence in himself, but it's so clear that the rest of the team has it in him too.
Yeah, I think I said this, maybe might have been in my observations video, but I've never seen a guy whose personality and confidence is part of that. His personality, his approach, his determination permeates the locker room like Jalen. Like, I've been around some great players, but I've never seen anyone who just so naturally and organically just affects everybody around him. And I think it's non-football too. I think it's the same with everybody in the building that's around him, and it's a really special thing. And I think a lot of this team's success is because of that. The locker room's not exactly 52 clones of Jalen, but like, we'll hear like Jalen say something in a press conference, and then like the next day in the locker room, everyone's saying the same thing. You know that he shared it in a meeting or just going locker to locker. Like, he sets the tone for what those guys
think. And in some ways, he even sets the tone for the coaching staff.
I believe that.
Which is probably a little more rare. There are certainly like great quarterbacks who do that, like the Tom Brady's of the world, Peyton Manning's, like. But I think he does that for this coaching staff as well.
Yeah, and it's funny how the coach is the one who's like, emotional and dramatic and out of control, and the quarterback, who's 25, 26, is the one who's under control and calm and disciplined and probably telling the coach, calm down. It's definitely unusual roles.
It certainly is. That's all I had on that. You want to take a little break, and then on the other side, snap counts were maybe the most fun we've ever had doing snap counts this year. So we'll get into some of that. We also talked to Sean Desai, Mike
Kafka, like a guy like that. That's who I was thinking of.
Jeez, all right.
He had been here briefly.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll get into some of the other stuff on the other side.
Bothering me.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table.
We're back here on the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan out here at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia at the Sportsbook.
We're right around the corner from Martorano's, right over there.
We are. I see it. Maybe we'll get some food after this. Rube, let's talk about snap counts a little bit. Pretty crazy. And we talked about it after the game. The Bills ran 92 plays. It ended up being 95 snaps with non-plays. Insane. I mean, just an absolute outrageous number. Certainly, you hope it's an outlier because you can't do this every week.
No, that's for sure. And, I mean, they played a high number the week before, or Monday, 6 days before, 5.5 days before, really. But, yeah, some of these numbers. And I think somebody asked this today, Tuesday, at the presser about I think Nick will take that into account as he prepares this team. They're going to have a walkthrough on Wednesday, which they would have done anyway, but, we'll see how Thursday and Friday go. I would guess they might be a little shorter, a little easier, a little less stressful, because that's a huge workload. I mean, every one of those snaps, you're getting hit or hitting somebody. I mean, it's these are numbers that I've never seen before. And, I mean, Reed Blankenship played the most snaps He played 95, all 95 on defense, and 21 on special teams, more than half. And I know he's a young guy, but it's the highest snap count by anybody in the NFL in 11 years. And then, you see guys like Jalen Carter played 76 snaps. What's he averaging, 40?
Yeah, and you could argue that Jalen Carter playing 76 snaps is almost more impressive than a defensive back playing 95.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, there's a hit on every single play.
Yeah, and then we talked about the play where he chased down Josh Allen, which might have saved the game.
That's Jordan Davis.
Oh, we're talking about Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis was close. He was 62.
Yeah, which is, in a way, almost more impressive than Jalen Carter
Yeah.
playing 76.
Yeah, but both those guys, because, there's so many questions about his fitness and everything. But, yeah, Jalen Carter playing 70. They're both career highs by far. Sweat played the most plays of his career for the second week in a row. Reddick played the most plays he's ever. He played 87% of the snaps. Reddick did. So some of these numbers, and obviously Fletch got hurt and missed most of the game, I would guess. He got hurt early second quarter.
Yeah, and then he tried to come back in the second half and just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and
He actually played a snap.
he
in
did
the
play.
second half.
Zach Cunningham missed, I guess, about half the game. So now you have Christian Ellis, playing 27 snaps. Guys like, Tui Pelotu, who's a role player, played 32 snaps and 9 on special teams. And that's the other thing. When Jordan Davis played 12 special, he played 74 snaps. Jalen Carter played 9. He played 85 total snaps. These numbers are insane.
They are. Moro Ojimo got his one defensive snap. He's got to be thinking, how many snaps do they need to play on defense for me to get back on the football field?
Yeah, I do think.
And why do you think at that moment, why do you think that was the moment he got a snap?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It could have been an equipment thing.
Maybe.
Because, Devontae, there was one play Devontae did. But what impressed me was you look at these snap count numbers, but to hold them to a field goal in overtime, they had to be gassed.
Yeah. And look, I wrote about it. I asked Nick Sirianni about it. That Jordan Davis play was incredible. And we talked about it after the game, but to realize that was the 62nd snap of the game for him, and he almost reached 17 miles per hour chasing down Josh Allen, changed his angle enough to hold him there. And, I mean, that was a game-changing play.
It was, because if he turns the corner, he gets the first down, and they get a touch. Could very well get a touchdown. That might have been the play of the year by a defensive player.
Maybe. It was an impressive play. I don't think it was a play of the year, but it was a really good play. It was a little hyperbolic.
I knew you were going to disagree.
Yeah.
So what is the defensive play of the year?
It was. I mean, honestly, I could argue the Bradbury pick was a bigger play
you have
in that game.
335-pound guy chasing down one of the greatest running quarterbacks in history.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
And
a guy who
certainly impressive.
Yeah, a guy who people wondered if he'd be able to play half this many snaps.
Yeah, and that's I think the key to this is that really from the time the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis 13th overall last year, a big topic of conversation has been about his level of conditioning, his weight, his body fat percentage, and he's talked about really taking care of his body and learning how to do that, and it's been on everyone's mind. It's not just us saying this. I mean, the coaching staff has been on him about this because in order for him to be the player they want him to be, he has to be in shape, and I think a play like that illustrates how far he's come in that respect.
To do that at the end of the game is incredible. So that was his final snap. He didn't play on the incomplete. He was out of because he came
got
out
hurt.
of the game.
Yeah.
He got hurt. Yeah, that's incredible. He doesn't make that play last year,
He's not on the field, but yeah.
and they didn't play the Bills. But yeah, fun stuff, fun numbers. Do you worry that there's a carryover, that this many snaps affects him Sunday?
Sure. Yeah, especially because 49ers have
McCaffrey and
an
Debo.
extra couple of days rest.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, they're getting the 49ers off of 10 days rest.
Yeah, it's a concern.
And honestly, I think this is kind of an outlier. Obviously, you're not going to play 95 snaps every game, but I am a little, not concerned, I don't think is the word, but I'm keeping an eye on the edge rushers because they are playing a ton, and it's no longer a balanced rotation. Brandon Graham, I think, you're getting as much out of Brandon Graham as you're going to get in terms of percentage of snaps.
And that was his second highest total this
Mhm.
year, 26.
I mean, they played 95 snaps, and Nolan Smith still played just 11.
yeah. And Sweaty and Reddick have each played 160 plus.
And Barnett's not here anymore. And I know he wasn't giving you good play, but like he's a body.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they can trade for him with the Texans. Where is he?
Texans. He got
Texans.
claimed by the Texans.
Yeah. It's a concern. It is a concern. And I don't know.
And I get that it's tough because Sweat and Reddick are playing so well, and they're playing so well in the fourth quarter that it doesn't seem to be affecting them. I just worry about the cumulative effect
Sure.
over the course of the season.
Do you know that the Eagles have 12 sacks in the final 5 minutes
It's unbelievable.
of their games this year? That's incredible. That's like 40% of their snaps have been in the last 5 minutes.
And once that rule gets changed, they'll have more.
Dave's working on changing the intentional grounding
Yeah.
rule.
Me and Hassan Reddick are going to take this up. I felt bad asking him about it after the game because I know he's so stokable about
He
it.
is. He is. But look, they're still big plays.
And he was saying that like Josh Allen's lobbying for an intentional grounding, and I was like, Hassan, he's not lobbying for an intentional grounding. He's not even thinking about intentional grounding, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's all I had there. Anything else
I
from
hope they change the rule just to calm you down.
me and Hassan will be
It's not really a
reading
rule.
this.
It's just I guess a statistical. I don't know. It's not really a rule.
That's true. It's a stat robbing procedure.
I guess so.
Sean Desai, we
I
spoke
like it the
with
way
him.
it is.
Do you really?
I don't mind it.
Okay.
I don't. Not going to get all stoked up about it.
I just think when you guys are getting paid off of this stuff, we ought to be fair.
Well, I think it is fair.
Yeah. Oh, you're anti players getting paid.
Yes.
Hate the players. You're a big root for the owner guy. Let's get the billionaires some more money.
Players can negotiate their own contracts.
Yeah, but let's give them the tools.
I'm a total union guy.
Yeah, sure you are.
I'm in,
Trying to take away sacks.
I'm an AFTRA. I'm a union guy. No, I just think the yard. You got to account for the yards one way or another, and I just think that if the quarterback never got sacked, it's not a sack. Maybe there should be a separate category: intentional groundings forced. How about that?
Feels like extra work.
Would that appease you?
No.
Can we move on?
Sure. Sean Desai, we spoke with him. I asked him about the third downs. I think that's a little troubling because it's not just that they're giving up third downs. They're giving up third and longs. And I know in this game in particular, you're looking at it and saying, well, Josh Allen's a really tough player. He's gonna do that on occasion. And he was great. I mean, Josh Allen was probably the best player on the field for that game. But it's more than just this game. On third, I looked this up, on 3rd and 7 and longer this year, the Eagles are giving up the 4th highest percentage of first downs.
That's good use of the gameplay finder.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe my favorite stat head feature. I wish it went back before '94. You would think they might work on that. Katie, let's get going on that.
Poor Katie.
But it is a concern, and it just kind of goes into general concern about what is this guy doing to that chair? This guy's just like damaging the chair out there. Can you call security? Can we call security? Get security to the book.
Got to put blinders on you pretty soon.
What was the question? Oh, it's a concern, really. I mean, the whole secondary to me is a concern. And look, they face some more high-powered quarterbacks. They're going to face them in the postseason. And I thought they had a good day against Mahomes. They had a good day against Tua, but
Well, Mahomes beat him with his legs a little bit,
yeah, he did.
which is like now, back-to-back weeks where you see a quarterback with a little mobility.
Yeah, I mean, they do that to a lot of, but it's a good thing they don't have to defend Jalen.
Yeah, that's true.
They have like 200 yards, but yeah, I do have concerns about the defense. Third down certainly is a big one, and the run defense hasn't been the same. Now a lot of that was
Allen, yeah.
the quarterback. They shut Cook down actually for the most part.
There was one series where you could tell they were just gassed.
Yeah,
And they were missing a linebacker and Fletcher Cox and Milton Williams. So.
sure, yeah. Now they should get Milton back. I don't have a sense of Fletch. I mean, he doesn't miss many games.
If he can play, he's going to play.
If he can play, he will definitely play. So we'll see about that. But
We'll get more
Yeah.
injury stuff on the Thursday pod, hopefully.
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of options there. I mean, they just got to be better on third down.
Anything else from Desai kind of stand out to you?
Not really.
Okay.
No. He doesn't say a whole lot.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Nice guy.
Guarded. I think he's a good coach.
I do too.
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. Michael Clay. Let's give Michael Clay his roses.
Let's get him in that Coach of the Year conversation.
Maybe Assistant of the Year.
They have that, right? That's a thing now?
Yeah, tough for a special teams coordinator to win
I
that.
don't know.
But what a turnaround.
He's got Braden Mann, one of the top punters in the league over the last month. Covey, second in the league in punt return average.
They're getting contributions from a lot of players.
Yeah. You know who's really good?
Keely Ringo's been good.
Josh Jobe.
Josh Job's been fantastic.
Really, really
We haven't
good.
talked enough probably about that play he had against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Pinning them deep. Keely Ringo's been good. Patrick Johnson had a huge tackle
He did.
to pin them deep in this game. They're getting contributions from everyone. Jalen Carter's blocking a kick. Jordan Davis is giving them something on teams. It's really the entire unit, and it's quite a turnaround.
It sure is. And look, I was in the fire Michael Clay camp.
You were leading the camp.
I don't know if I was leading it. I was, halfway back, but I was definitely. Look, I just thought the product wasn't what it needed to be for a couple of years now, and I don't really know what it is. Seems like a different guy, and whatever it is, it's working. I mean, they're really good in everything, in every facet. Kick returns isn't really a thing anymore. They gave up a couple big ones, but I've been really impressed with. And then Jake Elliott's not his guy really. That's more
Tyler Brown.
Randy Brown's son, Tyler. That's more his bailiwick, but it's
Bailiwick.
It's all under Michael Clay. You got the best kicker in the league, the second best punt returner. You got over the last 6 games, Braden Mann's like the 4th leading punter in the league. And I wish he could do net average on StatHead. You can't. You can look it up for the year, but not for a period of weeks.
Bailiwick, one's sphere of operations or particular area of interest.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, bailiwick. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what I was talking about, but yeah, I've been really impressed with everything about Michael Clay this year. Even in his press conferences, he's like seems more confident. He's clearer. He's
easier to be confident when your unit's killing
true.
it.
I mean, he's got, and I give Nick credit for not making a change there. I would have, and they wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah. Nick's a loyal guy.
He is
Patient, and this organization is obviously patient.
Yeah. I think Nick was asked, about Michael, and I mean, he never considered making a change there, which I was surprised. And you made the point, I remember back during the offseason, that do you really want to change all 3 coordinators at the same time, which is a good point. That could have been part of it. Nick's big on consistency and cohesion and keeping things the same as much as possible. So that could have been part of it. But it's been an impressive year for Michael.
Yeah. I thought the other thing I wanted to mention from his press conference, he was asked about the Jake Elliott kick, and he talked about the home field advantage in your building. He wouldn't tell us specifically what they look at, but he said there are more indicators about the wind than just the flags, I guess, on the goalposts or in the stadium.
It was really interesting. He said the wind direction changed middle of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a little bit more of an assisting wind when he did kick the 59-yarder than earlier in the game. And the flags aren't really an accurate representation of what's going on lower down. So, and he wouldn't tell us what it was, like you said, but what could it be? It has to be something closer to ground level or 20 feet up, 30 feet up.
I think what they do, they make one of the assistants put on one of those hats with the propeller
hat.
and then they run him out there. And
I did see Matt Patricia wearing one of those, but he always wears it anyway. So, no, but I don't know what it could be other than I don't know what it could be.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more about they probably know where to sense the swirling winds.
But how do you do it?
I don't know. And honestly, I know you're a Sean McDermott guy. Calling a timeout before Jake Elliott kicks a field goal does not ice him. If anything, it gives them more time to figure it out.
I just because I'm friends with Sean McDermott doesn't mean I agree with everything.
I thought he really screwed up the end of the regulation.
I do too.
What the heck was he doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
They call it. It's like I understand the timeout to get your defense set. That's fine. If you need that timeout, by all means. Then you call a timeout before Jake Elliott, which leaves you with 1 And 20, even with the one in 20 seconds, I shouldn't have sat on the ball. But if you have two in 20 seconds, do you disagree with that?
No, I agree with
Oh.
two. With one, and he was asked about that, and he said I just think with their defensive front, 20 seconds, there was bigger chance that they were going to score than we were going to score.
And I think that's asinine.
Yeah, I have to look at the analytics, but that didn't bother me. The timeout did.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like malpractice. You have the best player on the field. You've carved up this defense that's obviously tired. You have a timeout, so you can even still work the middle of the field. At least give yourself a chance to throw
That's fair. That's
throw
fair.
a Hail Mary. I thought it was crazy.
But we've seen what happens with Hail Marys and going the other way. But
Wow.
no, I mean, you look at what Sweat and Reddick do at the end of games, and you have a sack fumble. All of a sudden, there's Sweat running the ball in the end zone. He played it conservative and lost the game.
Yeah. That's all I had from Desai and Clay. Anything else from those guys?
No.
There are no longer like bulletin boards in locker rooms.
No, there's not.
But if there's
a whiteboard.
There's a whiteboard. If there were bulletin boards, this would be a big week for them.
Yeah. Are there still people still have bulletin boards?
Sure. They have them in like libraries and stuff.
Okay. I'm not allowed in my library.
You got kicked out for
I
trying to do a podcast.
I got
there.
kicked out for trying to do an Eagle Eye podcast in an empty conference room that hadn't been used in weeks.
They have your picture up on the wall now. You can't go in there.
They do. They have it on the bulletin board.
That's pretty good. But this would be a big week for it. We know how much whining the 49ers did after losing that game last year. And honestly, it was one of the more impressive things, like the juxtaposition to then see. The Eagles complained a little bit about the field conditions and those sort of things after the Super Bowl. But, like, James Bradbury, to his credit, is like, yeah, I mean, they called it. I hope they wouldn't, but they called it. Like, I thought the Eagles were way more gracious in defeat than the 49ers were. It's just a lot of excuse making out of San Francisco last year.
Yeah.
But with all that said, like, you know that this game means an awful lot to them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear like Hargrave's perspective on all this because he was here for that game last year. But yeah, and I think you're already hearing it, some of the trash talking and everything, and been hearing it for a year now, for 10 months. I like that. I mean, these are the two best teams in the NFC. They're probably not the two best teams in the NFL, but they're darn close because I put the Ravens in that top few. But they're the two best teams in the conference, and this is. I mean, whoever wins this game, if the Niners win, I guess they're still at the top seed, but if they win it goes a long way toward having a chance at the top seed.
I think there's way more juice for this game than for the Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
I think there's too much respect between the Eagles and Chiefs.
No, that's a good point. It does seem like that. I think part of it might be because it's here.
Mm-hmm. Part of it. I mean, there's going to be start off than any game this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's going to be wild. I mean, Dallas was pretty wild.
I think this is going to top it.
Especially if there's not people still trying to get on into the parking lots at kickoff like Dallas.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, that was bad. But
did you hear the Deebo Samuel thing?
Yeah.
So in the offseason, he was asked about the Eagles and their secondary, and he called James Bradbury trash, which, James Bradbury was a second-team All-Pro last year. And then this week, he was asked if he wanted to walk any of that back, and he said he didn't. No. All right. It's fair. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's look, both teams are so good, and I mean the Niners are better defensively. Might be a push offensively. Eagles might be a little better.
I think, like, on paper, the Niners are probably the more talented team this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the record.
Yeah.
The Eagles are winning all these games.
Well, that's the thing. Like the Niners had that run where they lost 3 straight, and you're starting to think
Mm-hmm.
the luster's come off this team,
Yeah.
and then they kind of got it together.
They were very lucky their injuries to their key players were not season-ending because, like, they need their top guys. Like, they rely so much on McCaffrey and Debo and Trent Williams that when those guys aren't there, you see the difference. I mean, Trent Williams was in his feelings so much last year, he didn't even see the end of the game.
Right.
trying to fight Kayvon Wallace.
Every game but those 3 losses, they've scored at least 27 points.
They've been good. They're a very good team.
And every game other than those, well, they beat the Rams 30-23 in the first week 2, but they've allowed 7, 12, 16, 10, 19, 3, 14, and 13 points in other than the 3-game losing streak, which was the Browns, the Vikings, and the Bengals, where they didn't have 3 of their best players.
Mm-hmm. They've added Chase Young.
And he's made a difference for
He's
them.
been good. Obviously, they have Javon Hargrave now, who's been very good inside, getting the type of pressure he got here, out there.
Who worries you the most between, I guess, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle?
McCaffrey. I could make a strong case that McCaffrey's their MVP. You could make a case McCaffrey deserves league MVP talk. I mean, he means that much to that offense.
Yeah, he's got 16 touchdowns.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes them so tough, and we'll really get into these matchups later in the week, is that like all of their skill players are so interchangeable. It's amazing how they operate.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
It's tough to defend.
Yeah.
Yeah. One area I think the Eagles are better, punter. Braden Mann's got it all over. Yeah. Day.
I think we've done enough today.
They've also only allowed 33 points in the fourth quarter in 11 games. That's pretty good.
That's pretty. Should be a lot of fun.
I wish it was 1 o'clock.
I wish every game was 1 o'clock,
Same.
but yeah, we don't. I think there's 2 left. The Giants and
Arizona?
Arizona's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And then the last game doesn't have a time yet, right?
Yeah, they might play at midnight.
I hope not. All right, let's start to wrap this thing up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, we love you guys to click the like button, subscribe there as well. We got a great, a couple new reviews. I want to read these. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
This one is from Claude Dog. I love listening to this podcast. These guys are easy to listen to and really know their Eagles. I like hearing their opinions and thoughts on the Eagles organization. Keep it up. And this one's from K4 Dog. 1 star. Stick to the Eagles. 20 minutes of material stretched to an hour. Taylor Swift, Strasburg, pies? ? Keep the main thing the main thing.
Speaking of East Stroudsburg,
Pumpkin or apple? We didn't hit pies this week. That's
No.
pretty good for us.
Yeah.
Especially coming off Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Thought we would have done it.
yeah. Did we talk about pies?
I think we probably talked about pies.
We never talked about Taylor Swift, though, did we?
Inevitably we did. It's
Okay.
hard to avoid.
All right. Well, we never talked about Ariana Grande.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Stay tuned for Thursday's show, everyone. That's it. Let's wrap this up. Thanks to Rivers Casino Philadelphia. We've been out here at the
Wait, but-
Sportsbook all week.
I don't think. I think our Eagles content's more than 20 minutes, though, and we do sometimes get sidetracked. But I think it's more like 42 minutes and 3 minutes sidetracked. Maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
I don't think it's 20 minutes.
Is that how you would divide that pie? All right. Let's wrap this up.
Good
This has
one
been
for
Eagle
Dave.
Eye
It's good for
presented by
you.
Nissan. For Rube, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you soon.